Welcome to another edition of the GM Files. Jim Duquesne alongside Bobby Evans, and we are pleased to be joined by four-time All-Star, Cy Young Award winner. He was runner-up once. I think he was fourth place, fifth place. This guy was a dominating starter during the 80s and early 90s. He was Rookie of the Year, 194 career wins at the Major League level. Dwight Gooden. Doc, what's going on, man? Thanks for the time. Good to see you.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for having me. As well, sitting here, watching the tube, watching the trades, free agent signings, all that stuff. This is my time of year. I'm still a huge fan of the baseball.
There you go. Pretty cool. We were wondering this too, because the nickname Doc, right? It was we remember the sign. I remember the signs Dr. K, but it just got shortened to Doc. Was it you were carving up guys? I mean, you only carved up guys almost 2,300 times over your career. But what was how did it become just Doc?
It actually started by just Doc, like all the way through like Little League in high school. My father had a friend that was actually a doctor, he was an MD, and he's always told my dad was going to be a doctor, not a baseball player. And for some crazy reason, when they would come to my Little League games, they'll have a couple of drinks at the car before they watch the game. And every time I would get 2 strikes on the batter, he would start saying, "Come on, Doc, operator Doc, you have a new patient, Doc." And one of these games, we got into tournaments, but the local newspaper was there. This guy, Paul McEwen, he's working at the Times paper. He was doing a story, and the guy was going through his whole ritual, and he wrote the story about it. So my teammates started teasing me about it in Little League. We carried to high school, and then like they used to call me Dr. D for Dwight. But once I got drafted, everybody has a nickname once you get drafted, and my teammates wanted to call me Goody, but that didn't sound too well. I was like, back home, they called me, Doc. And, I stayed with Doc. And then once I got to the major leagues, I had a lot of success with the strikeouts, and it added the K, like Dr. K. But then now it's just Doc.
That's awesome.
But the funny thing about that, back home, when my mom passed, my son, Dwight Jr., they used to call him Doc, and they called me Dwight back home. But in New York, I'm Doc.
Oh, is that right? I like that. Doc, you were drafted at 17, in the big leagues by 19. I mean, did you know when you were going through the draft that you were going to get picked that high and it was going to be the Mets?
Not at all. The amazing thing about that was I didn't talk to any scouts from the Mets. I talked to other Cincinnati Red scouts because at that time, Cincinnati had Frank Kennedy in Tampa. And I talked to the Cubs, who had the number 1 pick that year. They ended up taking Sean Dunston. And I thought if I got drafted, it would probably be the Cubs or the Mets. But the Cubs or the Reds. And my high school coach told me that if I got drafted, it would probably be more like the 10th or 15th round. So there's no way I thought I would go as high as I did. And I remember watching the draft with a guy, Lance McCullers, whose son actually plays for the Astros now, and this guy, Rick Montgomery. And those guys were ready to top guys at that time for pitchers. I was all watching the draft and ended up, being the 5th pick taken by the Mets. And I remember having that same guy, Tom McEwen, called New York to make sure they had it right because of what my high school coach told me. And when I got drafted, Joe McEwen actually did my contract. And when we was talking, we never talked at all. And I talked about that. He said he saw a couple of, I guess, what they call bird dog scouts or whatever. See, every time he came to see me pitch, Mike said that I was playing outfield with shortstop, so he never actually saw me pitch. But he liked my arm and thought that I was a decent athlete to be that high.
Wow. Well, that's a heck of a story. I'll tell you, and that we were just talking before you came on. Like these days, a lot of teams, they don't, because of the risk of injury, they don't draft high school pitchers that high. You were number 5 overall. It's like most of the time they're like late, unless they're really, really special, they're like late first rounders at least, just because there's been so many injuries there. You were relative. I mean, at least the early part of your career, you were relatively healthy. Obviously, you had some issues, a little bit later there, but do you ever feel like, geez, because of the number of innings that you threw there, I think the maximum you threw 276. No one's going through 276 anymore. Was it because do you think that because you threw that, at age 20 that you maybe had some issues because of that? Did you ever think about it?
I've thought about it. I guess the last several years, I do all this different stuff now, like the war and different statistics that keep out analytics and all this stuff that, you think about it at that time because there was a lot of it. And even like if I can go back to high school, my senior year, our team wasn't that good. And we had games on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. So I may start Tuesday, even though it's 7 inning games. I may start Tuesday, pitch the whole game. If it was close Saturday, I might come in relief and then start Friday. So, and then in A-ball, I had 190 some innings, so I had 30 strikeouts, not to blow smoke anything. And then, as you guys said, first year of the major league, so many innings. And I do think that probably played a part, plus unfortunately the off the field stuff. But on the field, yes. But if I had to do it all over again, I would do it the same way. But the mindset at that time was when you took the ball, the job was to complete the game. And that's what I tried to do. And so I would have done it no other way if I could, change back my career.
How hard do you think it is on pitchers today, Doc, when you look at the fact that they're not expected to go the whole game? In fact, many times they're not even allowed a third time through the order. What's your thoughts about how pitchers are dealing with the starting rotation in the role today?
Me personally, I'm more of an old school guy, and I think personally, I don't like it. I think a lot of pitchers, if you're pitching good in the game and you're breezing through the game, and like there's a big difference between 100 pitches in 7 innings opposed to 100 pitches in 3 innings. If the guy's struggling through, leave him to get in trouble because the guy you bring in from the bullpen is no guarantee what he's going to give you. The guy that's in there, you see what he's giving you. And I understand now they're training these guys to do that at the minor league level. But by the end of the year, there's so much wear and tear on the bullpens that you have all the injuries, and then they're using the starters to come in as relievers if you make the postseason. I think now guys are going less, but you're seeing more injuries. And I think part of that as well is that they're drafting these guys, they're bigger, stronger, they're throwing harder. They're not working these guys with mechanics. I think mechanics is very important. And again, I like to see them stretch these guys out a little bit longer, especially if they're pitching well early in the game. Get into a lineup 2 or 3 times, they say they don't want pitching to face one the third time. Why not? If the guy's pitching great, why not? I mean, not to be biased with like a guy like DeGrom, but this guy breezed through the lineups. I'm not having him go 7, 8 innings if he can, or complete the game. And I'm sure that's what he would like to do if you ask him.
Definitely. I was going to ask you about. I'll just go right into DeGrom and Cole. You get to see those guys, both,
yes.
Both right there in New York, and like they're the guys that you come out and take the ball from them. They're ticked. Most guys are, but they like there's no way you're not taking them out. They're upset. Which I mean, you had 16 complete games as a 20-year-old. Like there's no one going near that again. But those guys are. For the modern day pitcher, they're going deep in the game. And they're all out effort, right? Max effort, 100 miles an hour guys. I mean, you're like the only one of the few guys that probably could match their stuff, from like the 80s with that good fastball and the breaking ball.
Yes, no, I totally agree with that. And like you said, DeGrom, Cole, Scherzer, there's certain these guys here, like I call it throwback pitchers because these guys get pissed when they come out. They take them out of the game. Where occasionally you have some pitchers that, they are used to going 5, 6 innings. We're looking at the scoreboard, see, how many pitches they got. A lot of that stuff on the scoreboard. Me personally, I don't like it. I think it's great for the fans, for the pitch counts, the velocity, and all that. The young pitchers, every pitch they're looking at the scoreboard and see what the velocity was. Opposed to trying to make a pitch and get these guys out. But I like to see them get back to that. I don't know if they ever will, but it's just so much wear and tear and so much tension on a bullpen. The guys want to go on, 4 or 5 innings or get to 100 pitches and they're taking a guy out and got the bullpen up. I like to see it get back to, not old school baseball, but baseball with guys that, 2-1 ball games with pitchers. If they're pitching well, let them go to the 8th inning, especially in the summertime for sure.
So Doc, in the minor leagues, you get your first set of minor league coaches all the way through your career. You had a lot of different major league coaches. Who had a lot of impact upon you, maybe in those early days or latter part of your career? Who really impacted you on the field?
I think I'll have to start with a guy, John Complin. I don't know if you guys know that name, but he was with the Mets League a long time.
Oh yeah.
Yes, sir. I had him when I was in A-ball in Lynchburg, and that year I started out 0-3. And there was talk about sending me down to lower A, to Columbia, South Carolina. And Complin said, "Don't sit him down. We'll have a Mr. Start. I'm going to work with him." And they had me Mr. Start, but we didn't really work on anything. We just talked baseball. We talked about pitching inside because I wouldn't pitch inside because in high school, I ended up hitting the guy in the head and the paramedics came to get the guy off the field. So I was afraid of pitching inside of the same thing happening again. But John Coleman told me, he goes, when you go back out on the mound, if the guy hits the ball hard off of you, the next guy wants to knock him down. If the guy hits a home run off you, the next guy wants to hit him in the leg. He said, if you don't, I'm going to take you out of the game, I'm going to take you down. So what he was trying to do is just get me like pitching inside. So after starting 0-3, I ended up at year 19-4. And we got to a point after about 8 or 9 starts where I come and say, okay, don't hit anybody else, or don't, knock anybody down. Let's go ahead and pitch. But it got me out of that fear of pitching inside. If I hit a guy, it's okay. You have to pitch inside, no matter how much I pitch stuff is. If you're not pitching inside, as you guys know, guys can do a lot of damage. And just I had that talk with John Conlon really changed my career, because if I only got signed down to the lower level, who knows how my career would turn out, because next year I was in the major league. I'll definitely say John Conlon started me on my way. Once I got to the majors, I was very fortunate to have Mel Stoudemire both at the beginning of my career and then at the end with the Yankees. Not only was Mel a great pitching coach, but he was a great guy that early in my career, he would motivate me to find things for me to work on before he starts. Well, I didn't get complacent if I was having success. He always found things for me to work on. I was one of those said, just give me 15-minute side work, and he'll find things for me to constantly work on.
Mel was a fantastic pitching coach. Like you said, you had him both places. It reminds me, obviously you pitched for both teams, and obviously, and you got a World Series ring with the Mets, and then you're in 2000, you're with the Yankees. You get a World Series ring with the Yankees. Take us through how odd and different. Not many guys do both, right? Like we talked to Johnny Damon. Not many people go from New York, from the Yankees to the Red Sox, but there's a fair number that go Red Sox to the Yankees. And that Mets-Yankees competition, there's a few, but it's got to be a little different. How was it with you?
It was definitely different, like you say. The first one I got in '86 with the Mets, that was always my favorite, because it was my first one, and a team that drafted me, and a team that most of the guys that we won with, we came through the minors together. And I think the difference is with the Mets, like once you go to spring training, you have the general manager talks, the manager talks, this is coach, this is the staff talks. You go through the whole thing, and everybody's goal is, let's stay healthy, let's give ourselves a chance to win at the end of the year. With the Yankees, only one boy, Mr. Steinbrenner. He's first day of spring training, he's the only guy talking in the clubhouse. He go through the whole thing about, you guys here for a reason. The reason we're here, we only have one goal, to win the World Series. Anything else is a failure. Go out on the field and get him. So you know that right away. There's only one boss. But he was great. He always was like a fan. He's obviously the owner. He just wants to win. He has so much passion. But at the end of the day, he was in your corner. So with the Mets, having Davey Johnson, who was great, he was what I call a players manager. What I mean by that was, he'll sit on the back of the plane, you play cards with the guys. On the road, you go out to eat with the guys. But most managers, you go out to eat with the coaches, or they sit in the front of the plane or in front of the bus. But Davey was like part of the guys, as long as you didn't break his rule. Right. It was more close. The Yankees were more old school, where we had to wear sports clothes on the road. There's none of that fast food in the clubhouse, like McDonald's or Burger King. Let's get down to the weight room like some of us did. Yeah, here it is. None of that crazy music where with the Mets, whoever's pitching that day, you get to listen to whatever you want. With the Yankees, was none of that music like that. So I think with the Yankees, it was just more win or nothing. That's when I was there, let's give out a chance, give ourselves a chance to win and compete at the end. So that was a big difference I noticed with both ball clubs, I would say.
So, Doc, you get your first call up. Were you expecting it? Were you ready for it? Or was it something that kind of came out of the blue?
It's funny with the Mets. In '83, after Lynchburg, after I finished the season 1904, I got called up to AAA, and Davey Johnson was the manager. And I pitched well for him in the AAA playoffs and the AAA World Series. We won it. He said, wherever I manage next year, I'm taking you with me. So I'm thinking, wow, next year at least I'll put this in AAA. And unfortunately, George Bember resigned. Davey Johnson got the job. And when he resigned, I was in the instructional week. It was in November. I was in St. Petersburg, and I saw Davey. And just jokingly, I said, Davey, remember what you told me? He goes, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. You come to spring training, you'll make the team. So now I get an invite to spring training as a non-roster player. And all through spring training, I'm doing okay. I'm pitching a lot of B games. Back then they had a lot of B games and a lot of games against the Cardinals. But through the whole process, at every start, the next day, the writers would say, yeah, you're going to probably go to AA, maybe AAA. The front office don't want to rush him. So right away, like a little spoiled kid, I'm running to Davey's office. Like, Davey, look, they're still going to AAA. They would say, don't worry about it. Just go on the thing. I'm going to be with me. I didn't find out until the last spring training day. I was leaving that day to open the season in Cincinnati. I think it was like the 15th, and Davey came up and said, congratulations, you made the team. And at that time, I was happy to share that moment. I thought to share with my dad. But at the same time, now being a 19-year-old kid, a year and a half of high school, I'm doubting myself, not really doubting myself, but questioning myself, am I ready? Because I remember 2 or 3 years prior to that, I used to be in the backyard pretending to be Pete Rose or Mike Schmidt or Joe Murphy, these guys, not getting a face to them. And I remember my dad told me, when you go out to pitch against these guys, don't pay attention to the name on the back of the jersey. Just think about making your pitches and go for it. It helped, but at the same time, the young kid, first time around in the league, I was just so excited that I couldn't wait to get home. They called my friends and told me what I faced that particular night. But David Johnson was really the reason why I made the team that first year, because at that time the front office wanted me to go back to the minors because of my age.
That's awesome.
That's really good. I'm curious.
I know with the
pitch. Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that I think that was your major league debut in Houston.
In Houston, yes. We
And
opened
you
up
could-
the season in Cincinnati, and then I was a fifth starter, so I started in Houston.
And then is there some story about you not being able to get into the Astrodome or?
Oh man, what's amazing was my first start was in Houston, so it was a night game, and the match was kind of flew my parents in for my first start, and I remember having lunch with them at the hotel earlier. I was so nervous. There was so much anxiety going on, and the bus went until 5:00, and I had like about 3-hour window before the bus, and I remember going downstairs to the concert, and I asked him how far is Astrodome. He said it's about 3 miles, and I asked him how do you get there, so he basically drew it out for me how to get there. I actually walked to the ballpark. And when I got there, because I hadn't been there before, I didn't know how to get in. So now it's like an 8-foot fence. True story, 8-foot fence. I'm climbing this fence. The security guard see me climbing the fence, and they come running over there. I'm like, hey, kid, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm pitching tonight. And they're like, sure you are. So they called up the front office, and the cops come down. And luckily, Steve Garland was our head trainer. He was at the ballpark already. It came out to verify for me. And that was my first day started the Astrodome.
That's great.
That's a great story. I hadn't heard that one until I was doing some homework. That's funny. How about from pitching in the World Series? What was that like?
Oh man, that was amazing. And unfortunately, I didn't have anything my first time around the World Series for Boston. I pitched well in the playoffs against Houston. And one of my dream starts was I got to pitch against Nolan Ryan. But once I got to the World Series, I had absolutely nothing. And part of it was I think I was tired. My shoulder was tired, and then that's what patient was off. But it was definitely a dream come true. And I tell you what, who played a big part that year, who gets my credit, was Ted Fernandez. He basically under the bullpen started. He really saved us for his staff goes. But me personally, it was a great experience. But it was a bittersweet experience because we won, which I was happy. But I didn't pitch well neither start that I had.
Well, that had to be one of the most. No, go ahead, Jim.
Well, I was going to say, so take that. So you got the World Series ring. You didn't pitch well personally. Then you go over to the Yankees and you throw a no-hitter. At that point, Mets starters hadn't thrown any no-hitters. It took them another 20 years before they would have a no-hitter. You had no-hit stuff, but you do it with the Yankees. Take us through what was anything memorable about that no-hitter for you?
Oh, man. It was amazing. You would have thought if I was going to throw a no-hitter, like you mentioned, it would have been in 84, 85. But everything happens for a reason. It was meant to happen that year in 96. And I say it because the previous year I was suspended from baseball. Now I start off with the Yankees 0-3. It was almost like in 83. I start off 0-3. And Joe Torre was the manager, basically benched me. And so when a pitcher gets benched, you don't pitch if you're up 10 or you're down 10. You're not getting in the game. So they're trying to decide whether they want to send me down or release me. Unfortunately, David Cole got the aneurysm in his shoulder, and that's how I got back into the rotation. I think it was my fourth start back into the rotation with a no-hitter. But the thing about the no-hitter that day was my dad, who had been on dialysis for 15 years, his heart was failing, his health was getting real bad. He's going to have open heart surgery that next day. So I had a ticket to fly home to be with him for the surgery and my family. And that morning I got up, I said, you know what, manager, I said, look, I'm coming in, I'm pitching tonight. He said, no, go home, take as much time you want, get your dad. I said, I'll see you, I'm coming to the pitch. The next call was to my mom, which I ended up hanging up with my mom only because she felt like I should be there. She said, your dad's expecting you, all the family's here, you have to come. So I said, Mom, I think you want me to pitch. I said, no, son, it's not a conversation, you have to be here. So I hung the phone, and the rest of the day I'm thinking, should I pitch? Should I not pitch? And I remember the first 3 innings of that ball game, having to walk between the clubhouse and the dugout. Sometimes figuring out wondering if I made the right decision or not. And not until the 6th inning when I realized that I had a no-hitter, I was looking at the scoreboard, see what hitters were coming up. And you see no runs, no hits, no errors. And then you're like, wow, I got no hitter going. But at the same time, I'm facing the Seattle Mariners, who had me at that time had won a baseball. So my job is try to get the win. But at that point, I said, I'm going for this no hitter. You know, once you get that close, you got to go for it. And I was able to put my dad's situation aside and just go out and pitch. And I remember the ninth inning, Mel Starmer, I came out to the mound, walked the guys in the ninth, and of course, nothing. I was exhausted. Should have been done like the seventh inning. And Mel said, "How do you feel?" I said, "It doesn't matter. I'm not coming out." You know, go for it. And ended up pitching a no hitter. I remember after the game, the guys that carried me off the field, and all I could think about was the year before, you know, being suspended. I'm back in New York. I'm doing it. My dad gonna be okay. You're thinking all these things. And next day, I got to fly home. Went to the hospital. Took a ball from the game to get to my dad. He had the surgery. You know, he never made it home from the hospital and I passed away. But the last time he saw me pitch was a no hitter, and that's what made it that much special.
Wow, that's great.
Amazing.
Yeah, my last conversation with my dad was letting him know that we just signed Buster Posey out of the draft, and there's nothing like it to be able to, you know, be there for your dad. I know that for him to see that last start and for you to pitch a no hitter, I mean, goodness, that's awesome.
Oh, definitely.
When you look back on your career, Doc, what do you remember as your greatest achievement? What are you most proud of as an All-Star, Cy Young Award winner, Triple Crown winner?
Oh man, I think I would say the World Series, but probably from a personal standpoint, would probably be that no hitter, just because my dad taught me the game of baseball, and as a kid, me and my nephew Gary, we grew up in the same house. He's my sister's son, Gary Sheffield. My dad taught both of us the game at a young age, and baseball was like my dad's dream, then became our dream to play. So probably the no hitter from a personal standpoint, but from overall, I would probably say winning the World Series in New York that first time around, because we came so close in '85. I mean, we won 98 games and had to go home at that time. And a bunch of guys that we had, a lot of us still friends today, and a lot of us talk today. And to win with that group of guys and share it in New York with the fans is probably the most memorable moment. Especially, I remember the game with Clinch against the Cubs when the fans rushed the field. I mean, it was scary, but it was fun at the same time. But to just share that moment with New York and the fans, I would probably say that was probably my most memorable moment.
That's awesome.
Interesting. Well, Dwight, if you what would today's Dwight Gooden tell 19 or 20-year-old Dwight Gooden?
I think the main thing I would say for is everything that's happened on the field and off the field is number one, be honest to yourself. Number two, don't be afraid to reach out for help, no matter what it is. Ego and all that stuff aside. Because I think part of it, and not to justify anything, but part of it at 17, I started taking care of my entire family. So I was like on the pedestal where when I had problems with someone right, I felt that I can handle it myself, because most families, and I would say especially white families, you're taught as a man, you don't cry, you don't hug, you don't tell them you love them. And again, I'm not justifying anything. I take full responsibility for all my downfalls. But if I had to do all it over, I would do just the opposite. It's okay for a man to cry. It's okay for a man to reach out for help. And at that time, when I was having problems at an early age, I would say, it's okay, reach out for help. Let somebody know how you truly feel, what's really going on with you. I think I would have been better off. It would save a lot of troubles that I had down the road.
When you think about today's players, what could front offices or ball clubs do to provide more support, for their major league and minor league talent? What could they do to provide more support? If you could suggest anything, what would you suggest to these clubs?
I think some are doing it now, but not many. I know later in my career, the Mets had a guy around, somebody that the players can trust and talk to about whatever it is, whether it's your marriage or something personal, whether it's drinking, gambling, what have you. Somebody they can trust that they can go to and not be judged by the team or anything like that. It's something that's why I think if a team had that, I think they'd be better off, because especially now, these young guys that come into the game, the salary's a lot different. A lot of times, there's money go to you, and you're not really taught how to handle that type of money, and you don't bring more friends. And playing in a city like New York, you meet a lot of people who may not have your best interests, but always having somebody there on the road or with you, even at the home games, that you can talk to and feel someone that you can trust, that is not going to go no further than right there, and you're not going to be judged by it.
Yeah, I like it. I like
that. Hey, I'm curious. One more I wanted to ask you, Doc, was what do you think of both New York teams? The Yankees haven't been in the World Series now. They went a whole decade without getting to the World Series. Can you imagine George Steinbrenner, what he's taking. The Mets haven't been in the World Series since you were there. Haven't won a World Series since '86. Obviously, they've been there a couple of times. What do you think of what you're seeing from those two teams here into to 2021?
Yeah, you're right. It's been a while. I think, like, for the Mets, I'm still a Met at heart always, and I like to see the Mets get back to that. I think now it seems like with the owner they have, they're headed back in that direction. But at the same time, it's going to take time to build that. You got to build, as you know, you got to build that mounting system and everything up. The chemistry got to be right. So a lot of things got to come together. With the Yankees, it goes to show you can have more money than other teams to spend more. But if it's not the right moves and the teams don't blend right, it doesn't matter. I mean, so it's just tough to see, especially during my era. It was always Yankees was winning all the time. It seemed like in the 90s and 80s, the Mets was always right there. And for me, I put a little bias, but in New York, I don't like to see teams rebuilding. I like to see teams right there. But I think now they're going to be able to compete amongst each other. They would never admit that. But I think so. And when I say that, I'm just saying by the moves that's been made, whether it's free agent signings or, signing your own guys or with trades. And bringing Lindor into New York, I think that's great. But I'm one of those guys who still think that pitching, you got to have pitching. Pitching what wins, once you get the postseason. But at the same time, great move. I like to see that. And hopefully both teams get back to winning. I think baseball's great when both of the New York teams are playing well.
Yeah, I got one more, Jim, if we got time for it. I just, when you think back about some of the hitters you faced over your career, who were the toughest for you?
Oh, man, the toughest guy for me was Chili Davis. It seemed like this guy, when he was with the Giants, I was with the Mets. This guy wore me out. I mean, if I had my good stuff, he may get 2 or 3 hits. If I didn't have my good stuff, he would get a couple of home runs. And I remember, I can say it now that I'm not playing. I remember hitting him intentionally, not to hurt him, but just kind of intimidate him a little bit. It didn't work. And then 98, 99, I go to Cleveland. He's with the Yankees, and this guy still wearing me out. I mean, he was one of the toughest guys. And then this one guy, Wayne Krenchicki. Yeah. This guy was clearly a player, but it seemed like he started against me every time with the Reds when I pitched. Another guy I couldn't get out. And Ozil, I found out a couple years ago from fantasy camp that he was one of the guys that hit for higher average. But Philly sticks out more than anybody. Just one of those guys that just couldn't get out. And obviously, if he got a single, so then he not only had to get the single, he had stolen bases on me. That was one of my biggest weaknesses.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Hey, you were never traded. I was going to just say this in the way you were never traded. Like a lot of guys were traded in their career, right?
One time,
you were released a couple of times.
Oh, really? Time. It was actually in 2000. I had one start with the Astros, and I got traded to Tampa. And then Tampa released me that one time. But it was a situation where when I signed the Astros, Jerry Heinziker, who I known for when the Mets was assistant general manager, he had told me, I forget the guy.
Mentor. Yeah.
I had one guy coming back from an injury. I forget the name, the top prospect. And he said, I don't know when this guy going to be ready. He was ready after one start. And he said, I can either put you in a bullpen or I have a trade for you to go to Tampa. I said, I'm going to Tampa because I thought that was my last year anyway. At least I can go home with my kids and family can get to see me pitch.
That's right. Was Scott Ellerton their pitch?
Ellerton, that's it. Yes.
It was Ellerton. Yeah, I remember that exactly.
Yep. You're right. That's the guy. Okay. It was great.
All right. Interesting.
Yes, sir.
Listen, Dwight, we appreciate it. It was really good to catch up with you. You've had a great career, and I know I love when you're still involved, that you're still watching the game and still involved with the game. So hopefully we'll see you around the ballpark, provided this virus is gone from us. And I know you're dealing with it yourself, but you're looking good, man. Keep it going.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys.
Doc, which ring are you wearing?
Oh, there you go. That's the 86 Met ring right there. That's my favorite.
86. What do you got, Bobby? Let's see yours. Match it up. Let's see. What do you got, Bobby? Which one?
2014.
14.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's a nice one.
That's pretty good. 86 is a special one for sure. Yes, a lot of those guys.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that.
Unbelievable. Great to be with you, Doc.
Doc, good to see you, man. All right. We'll talk to you soon, hopefully. All right, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me.